It started.
What a dick. What a dick.
Hello, this is Christian Okoye, former Kansas City Chiefs. You are listening to Brilliant Truth.
I hope that got recorded.
Survive in Advance on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. Survive in Advance is brought to you by Replenishing Care. Make sure you go out and check the future of sports medicine on thegruelingtruth.net. You can click on the Replenishing Care banner on top of the website at thegruelingtruth.net. I'm your host for the show, Mike Goodpaster, and, of course, my co-host won a national championship in 1981 as he put Isaiah Thomas and the rest of the Hoosiers on his back and carried him to a 63-50 win over North Carolina. Help me welcome Steve Risley.
Hello. And I didn't quite do it all by myself. I had a little. Coach and I had a little bit to do with me hauling around those slugs.
I mean, that was probably at least 70% because of you.
Hey, I live on the theory that Isaiah and I combined for 26 points in that championship game, and without any one of those 26 points, we'd have only won by 5.
Yeah, and also I would like to apologize to anybody that listened to the start of the show before the music started where they may have heard a bad word uttered by Mr. Risley.
That was an accurate description. That was not a bad word. That was a descriptor.
He was looking in the mirror when he said it.
Describing my radio partner.
Yeah. All right. There's not a whole lot of topics to talk about this time of year.
Nothing going on.
There's nothing going on.
We got
Golden
Here's
State's
the big
beating
news.
the hell out of Cleveland. So
Serena Williams bowed out of the French Open
as
after
I
her,
predicted.
as you predicted, after her tizzy about not getting ranked or seeded after coming off a pregnancy leave, which we adequately explained why she wasn't seeded, justifiably wasn't seeded. And so she withdrew today because she had to play Maria Sharapova, who in her own right was coming off a 2-year suspension roughly for illegal drug use.
PEDs.
Hers wasn't even a PED. It actually was a form of a beta blocker, Czechoslovakian drug or something, some European drug. That was
a performance-enhancing drug.
Well, but, there's another problem. They let her take this damn drug for 10 years, and then they put out an email that says, effective this date, if you're caught with this drug that you've been prescribed by a physician taking for a long period of time, if you get caught with it, you're suspended. What kind of BS is that?
Well, it's the same thing.
All
if you look at the NFL, the Cincinnati Bengals, Vontaze Burfict, last year got hurt in a game, got a concussion. The doctors gave him a medication. He didn't play the rest of the season because of concussion, because it was towards the end of the season. They gave him a medication that would help with the brain damage that was done from the concussion, and now he's suspended for the first 4 games of the season because the doctor prescribed medicine.
Is that idiotic?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like Maria Sharapova was taking coke or heroin or smoking joints in between sets. She was on a medicine that one of the products of these drugs, these beta blockers, which a lot of pro golfers used to take beta blockers because they slow your heart rate. By slowing your heart rate, you tend not to have the palpitations, you tend not to get the anxiety.
Well, that would be a performance enhancer then.
But it was not. That's not the designation of the drug. It's not like taking a true PED. It's just a side effect of the drug. Every drug has side effects, except for the ones that Roseanne was taking, which one of the side effects was not racism, as I think Santa Fe pointed out on the medication she was taking the night she made her rant that caused her to lose her television show. But anyway, that's just crazy. Anyway, so Serena's out. Tiger dismantled himself again in the final round of Jack's tournament, and Brandel Chambly won that on a tournament that again, TV doesn't tell you that they're changing the times due to pending potential inclement weather. I wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning. Tiger's on the 5th hole. Now, granted, there's a 3-hour time difference. And then they cut it off, and they bring it back on CBS hours later, and they tell you that Tiger's finished his round some 2 hours ago. So the only reason I watch golf is to watch Tiger play. I didn't even get to do that. So a little down on the Daubers about that too.
Yeah, you live a rough life down there in L.A. where it's always 75 and sunny.
But, I got to tell you, this 3-hour time limit on TV is a great thing because normally you wake up at 6 in the morning, you get all the sports out of the way, and then you go on to the beach or the golf course, and you have fun with the rest of your day. You get up at 9 o'clock in the morning, you're watching the Indy 500.
Well, you know you're living right, Steve, when the toughest part of your day or maybe the worst part of your entire week is missing Tiger Woods' round.
Well, no, I'm not saying that. We're not. I'm just saying there is a convenience to it. Like we'll watch the Clippers lose again at 5 o'clock while you guys are all staying up till 1 o'clock in the morning to watch the referee.
There's nobody here staying up till 1 in the morning to watch the Clippers.
Okay, well, NFL football, Sunday night football, Monday night football.
Yeah, that would be a huge advantage, I would think, unless you have like a 9 to 5.
It is a huge advantage.
Start, but.
Yeah, I mean, that's the big problem is you miss a lot of the games come on out here like at 5 in the afternoon, so you're fighting traffic, you're trying to get home. But these events that start like at noon, like the Indy 500, 9 o'clock, that puppy's lit up and going. By 9:05, Danica Patrick had already wrecked her car because she missed a turn. Did you see the idiot yesterday in the race that wrecked the pace car?
No, I didn't.
In Detroit Grand Prix, he literally, another reason why you get professional drivers to drive things that go faster than 70 miles an hour.
Well, Victor Oladipo handled it fine at the Indy 500, though.
But Victor Oladipo's a professional athlete, all right? So he knows what he's doing. This idiot's a dealership owner.
I thought you were going to say he's a drug dealer. Go ahead.
It probably is that, too, for all I know. But
maybe somebody was shooting at him, or maybe a car backfired and you thought somebody was shooting at him.
He's pacing 20-something highly tuned racing machines. He's in a Corvette that's got some 550 horsepower to it. Guy's probably never driven anything like that in his life. And he just hits the gas and he just spins the rear tires and slams it into the wall and destroys. And there's nobody even hit him. I mean, he just was going down the middle of the turn, the straightaway. And he decides to juice it up a little bit and go.
All right,
and the back end breaks loose.
Hold on here. You know what this reminds me of? Kevin Koch.
Days of Thunder.
Kevin Koch.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is.
Indy 500, where he takes out like Mario Andretti, and he takes out 2/3 of the first row.
AJ Foyt.
Classic.
He takes out
actually, he didn't take out Foyt. Foyt actually missed him because as sad and pathetic as it is, I actually watched the 1982 Indy 500 the other night.
Yeah. Oh, well. Well, anyway, so it's been a dull sports week, so nothing big going on because the NBA Finals are for crap now. Which is going to lead into the topic that we decided to discuss today, Mike.
Well, I think it leads to my topic is this. I think all professional sports have gone to crap, and I think it's all because of what we're going to talk about here, or a lot of it is.
Right. Well, it starts with this. Here's our topic of the night. Is professional sports officiating rigged, not for want of loss, but for competition? All right? And we're going to have a discussion on, I don't ever think that they're going to rig it to determine a winner. That's reserved for championship wrestling. They are pretty good at that. And those guys are good athletes. They do all the moves. But there's a decision made before they ever step into the ring or out of the locker room as to who's going to win that match. Now, I don't think that any professional sports goes that far. But I'm going to tell you, I'm beginning to really believe that officiating is rigged to keep things competitive. Now, the last game was a blowout by Golden State. But for the most part, all the games really that I've watched have really come down to the wire and been tight games that kept close. NASCAR, any form of auto racing. And we'll get into all that. But that's the question we're going to have. And my answer is yes, I think in a sublime way, things are rigged now to keep the competition active up until the last minute for the all sake of the mighty dollar, to keep advertising into it, to keep viewership up so they can charge more for advertising. These dadgum reviews of plays that takes 5 minutes to review whether a guy was on an out-of-bounds line or not. Guess what? That's 5 more minutes of commercial time they can go sell 5 more minutes of commercials to. In the meantime, What they haven't figured out yet is I've learned how to channel flip. So the hell with that stuff. And you know what happened in the last game against Cleveland, San Antonio, or Golden State when I flipped? I never flipped back.
You must have found a Kardashian episode.
I found an old rerun of the Kardashian when Bruce Jenner was still a guy. So I watched that. And I just never got back to the game. I flipped back when there was a Kardashian commercial and checked out and saw, Cleveland's still getting blown out by 20 points. And how the hell does LeBron James look it up and find out the number of games that man's fouled out of in his illustrious NBA career? I'll bet you you can count them on one hand. He goes 5 minutes into the end of the game and they say, LeBron picked up his first foul. How does a beast like that guy go 40 minutes playing NBA basketball and not have a foul?
Well, I think you would be hard pressed to see a game Magic Johnson or Michael Jordan or Larry Bird fouled out of.
Right. Yeah, Bird. I know Bird got himself in a foul trouble. Bird played hard defense. But you're right. It's minimal on all of them fouling out. And I understand, this whole thing in the NBA, there's just like two kinds of rigging. Try and keep the game close, keep people in it, and keep your superstars in the game at all costs. Let them duke it out. Let Curry and LeBron duke it out.
You said that you don't think they control who wins, but don't they kind of by controlling what may happen in games if you want to get to game 6 or 7? And if that is true, game 3 and 4 Cleveland should win, right?
I think this series right now could be a 5-game series. I think Cleveland's going to probably come back and win one of the two in Cleveland. But right now, looking at that game, what I saw, Golden State's just too strong.
Yeah, Golden State's
they're just too good.
Them, probably.
And you know what? I'm only going to say that just because I think LeBron will find a way to carry his team one more game and lead them to one victory in Cleveland. Other than that, I think it's done.
So this,
the first game
this is eerily similar to the national championship of collegiate basketball predictions we had.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I picked Michigan, all right? Get over it.
But I'm over it now because now you picked the Cavaliers to beat Golden State, so I can harp on that for a few months until you pick the wrong team to win the World Series.
I came to the realization and decided to have this show that I think that the refereeing and officiating in sports is rigged not to pick winners and losers. That would just be a federal crime. But I do believe it's rigged to a degree to keep the games competitive, to keep the races competitive. Here's the deal. You talk about NASCAR. Let's look at NASCAR. NASCAR is an expensive sport to even attend now. I mean, tickets are sky. You see attendance drop. You see promoters and track owners tearing stands down, not building new stands. They're tearing them down so they can fill what seats they can to make it look like people are coming to races. Attendance is down. Viewership is down. And then they come in now, and there's two things they do. They have this laser technology now to check whether a car is aerodynamically in line with the other cars to create equal competition, right? Okay? So now here's a situation where, for those of you that follow NASCAR, Kevin Harvick is 5-6 wins already this year, leading the points, everything. So the last two races, barring the last race at Pocono, he doesn't even get a chance to go qualify because by 1/100,000th of a millimeter somewhere, his car did not pass laser inspection. So he takes it back, comes back, takes it back, comes back, goes the third time. Third time they say, you're done. You're starting dead ass last. Your crew chief, your car chief is disqualified from this biggest race, and it's a dollar amount of fine levied against your team. So now people have paid Kevin Harvick fans, a lot of Kevin Harvick fans out there. He took over Earnhardt's car when Earnhardt passed away. Now you're not going to see the boy qualify. And it seems to me you want to put people in the stands on qualification. If I'm an Earnhardt, if I'm a Harvick fan, now I'm honked off. Over 1/100th of a thousandth of a measurement somewhere is going to make that big a difference. Whatever happened to just saying, you know what, maybe Harvick's just more talented than Bubba Wallace. Maybe he's just a better driver. But they get into this whole sentence. Then my answer is, why don't we just take one frame, one car, slap whatever Toyota, Ford, Chevy, Chrysler, Dodge decal you want on it, and just say, because, the old saying, there ain't nothing stock about a stock car. So forget it. Yet they let them have their different little body styles so they can sell commercials from those dealers. So it goes on. So they're inciting a situation here where they're trying to keep these races competitive. The old customary, here comes a unexplained caution light with 20 laps to go. Let's bunch them all back up. Let's do the wave around. So let's let all the cars, all the good drivers that are one lap down, let's get them back on the lead lap now. Because rubbing is racing, and we want them all rubbing and racing the last 20 laps so we can get those last ounce of commercials in. Formula One, every 2 weeks, they see things they don't like, they just change the rules, change the body style of the cars. Yeah, you can only have this much downforce, this much wing. And, what people see in this replay on basketball, which I think basketball is the worst officiated sport there is. Am I talking too much?
No,
Am I just venting?
I'm just sitting here.
Go ahead.
I think the best officiated is Major League Baseball, and I think the worst officiated is. I was sure it was the NFL until I started watching these playoffs. Now I think it's kind of a toss-up.
Yeah.
But the one thing that stands out to me about NFL and NBA officials is just the amount of guys you have over the age of 40 that are out of shape. You've got to have guys. Let's put it like this: how many guys, play in the G League or whatever that aren't quite good enough that could be really good officials? Why don't we take the last 2 or 3 guys on each one of those teams, make them an NBA official, and they can run with these guys? Because I see the one guy in the game the other night that looks like he fell off the set of the Goodfellas or something. He's like 55 years old. He's got his hair slicked back. Looks like a complete dumbass, and he calls the games like that too.
Yeah, and then you see him over there chitting and chatting with LeBron or Steph Curry like they're buddies. Like, where do they go out drinking after the game or something like that? See, I think just like Congress are officiating these term limits. You got guys refereeing in the NBA for 30 years. That's too long. You get to know people. You get to be friends. You get people you don't like. It's a human nature to be biased. It's just human nature. You can't go through life unbiased about things. You let a referee a professional sport with that much money at stake, with that much loyalty, fan base, and everything at stake, and this bias is going to appear, whether it's intentional or unintentional bias. It's going to rear its ugly head.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things here that can affect this. But I think the biggest thing that affects it, maybe the reason we see it more now, is that today's technology allows us to see a lot of things that we missed in the past.
Yeah.
You got officials in every sport are under the microscope more than ever. There's a lot more camera angles. Not just that, it's better. You got the HD. Hell, I got a better view of the game in my house than the official on the court probably does.
You do have a better view, yeah.
Yeah, Sports Center shows so many shows that focus on so many things like that. And all this means that a bad call in any sport is unlikely to go unnoticed. My problem with it is this, especially with the NBA. The NBA, to me, has a huge problem. That problem is Tim Donaghy. If you remember Tim Donaghy, he's the dude that got busted, and I think there was 1 or 2 other ones, for basically shaving points in games and betting on them. And he officiated NFL games, and everybody always freaks out that there's some conspiracy against certain teams. And I think it is, but I think this. I think if the Cleveland Cavaliers played the Indiana Pacers, and you switched LeBron and Victor Oladipo's teams, and LeBron's a Pacer, the Pacers are getting calls. Because let's face it, I think as you talked about these guys, talking to Steph Curry and them, if you remember, I can't remember which, it was Collison maybe, for the Pacers, where he looked at the official, put his hands out, and the official teed him up. And like 5 minutes later, LeBron's standing there yelling at the guy, and he doesn't do anything. So I think this is a superstar-driven league. I think that maybe a lot of this is even subconscious with these guys. It's like, this is LeBron James. And if I'm LeBron James, I'm going to go be nice to every one of them because they're all sitting there thinking, well, me and LeBron are friends. So I don't want to screw that up and make him mad at me. And when you look at the NFL, you got part-time officials. Now they've got some that are full-time. If you get a job that pays that much, that's that big of a deal, why not pay them full-time, make them full-time? Because they're not going to get any better at their job spending the whole week being a lawyer.
How much? Yeah. But doesn't an NFL official make like $150,000 to $300,000 a year?
Yeah, part-time. So why not pay him?
Okay, what
pay him a
isn't
half
that
a
a little
million
bit
and make him
above?
full-time.
Well, no, isn't $150,000 to $300,000 a year to work 16 games?
Yeah.
And some playoffs, isn't that quite? Gee, many Christmas. That's in the top 99% of wage earners in the country.
Yeah.
And they're working 16 weeks.
And
we
all
can't
have
get them to
jobs.
do a good job.
They all
They're
have
all
jobs.
lawyers. Yeah, they're all business owners or lawyers. I mean, I've met a couple of officials before, and it's like I thought they make somewhere between $150,000 to $300,000, depending on your tenure, I'm sure, and your quality, your rating systems are, it's a performance-based job like anything. But and then it's just like in the NBA. Why am I seeing the same referees ref the NBA championship games? Why don't they just say, you know what, all referees, 48 hours before the game, we do a blind draw and we pull names and we fly you into the city. You ref the game. You don't need any preparation. You just call the game as it happens. Why do we have to have a point system to award referees that, so now you got some referees like, ooh, if I do good for the NBA all season long, I'll get to make some extra bonus money and go ref an All-Star game or ref the NBA Finals or the NFL Super Bowl. Well, no, just do a blind draw. A random blind draw of all available officials that are licensed to referee in that sport. You pull them out in 48 hours before. You give them 24 hours to get into the city and do the game.
Well, and I think
it doesn't matter.
When you look at
they all should be qualified.
Other than the biggest blown calls that I've seen, which would have been like the 77 AFC Championship game of Rob Lytle's.
Well, okay, now wait a minute.
Hold on, I got a point here.
All right, okay. I got to write something down.
Write it down. This is my point. You get stuff like that.
How do you spell calls? How do you spell calls? C-L-O-S. Okay, I got it.
Sure. So you got 79 Mike Renfro touchdown back of the end zone that wasn't called. 85 Don Denkinger blowing the call in the World Series. Those calls you continually saw after the fact. But the thing is this, in a smaller game, like an Eastern Conference final game, back in the day, that game was shown. You might see the highlight on the news, and that's it. There was no Sports Center. If there was a Sports Center, it wasn't beat up. Not as many people saw it. So I don't know if the officiating is any better or worse than it used to be.
I don't think it is.
I think it is different because of the instant replay. But I can tell you this.
Right.
I think the NFL in the 60s and 70s was a very well-refereed sport. You had guys like Jim Tunney, who we've had on this show before, Jerry Markbright. Those were guys that you're not going to question their character. You know they're doing a really good job. And Tunney, by the way, was a great college basketball official, too. And I just think that nowadays everything's so zeroed in, focused. There's so many news outlets to cover it. You got YouTube blowing it up with conspiracy videos that maybe they just always sucked.
Yeah, okay. No, I don't think so. I think this. First off, you and I are both of age that we grew up without instant replay in our sporting world, right? I did. I mean,
you got to see. Replay. I remember the first time I remember instant replay was the first time the NFL tried it, which I think was in 1986. I was like 17 then.
Yeah, maybe. But blown calls, missed calls were a part of the coaching strategy to play the game, the outcome of the game. I can live with blown calls. I got technicals. I'm sure you got flags thrown.
No, never.
Were blown calls, but that was just the nature of the beast. You factored that in that they're gonna miss some calls. Okay, I can live with a missed call. What I can't live with is watching a situation where, and not even knowing what is and isn't allowable to be reviewed. How can a goaltending, why does a coach have to say, would you please review that goaltending? Dude, if you're watching a game, Mr. Referee, it hits the backboard, it gets touched after it hits that backboard, it's goaltending.
Yeah, and you got all the guys in New York that are watching it too. They could buzz in.
Now you have, You see what's happened is referees have become celebrities. The referees now, they slick their hair back. They all get on the weight machine. They all look like Adonises of their age. You don't see any fat old referees anymore. They're all built like brick houses, and because they're all celebrities in their own right now. And they become not part of the equipment. To me, referees should just be part of the equipment, like a basketball, like a chalkboard, like a net, like a rim. Referees, they're part of the equipment. They're provided so the game can be played. Now referees are, in their own right, as sometimes a bigger celebrity than half the players on the team of an NBA team or an NFL team. And it's just gotten silly. But then you go back to, we argued for 5 minutes over the charge call with LeBron in game 1. And I see photos on Twitter. I see photos on Facebook. I see photos. LeBron was standing 2 feet outside of that imaginary circle we have to say, you can't take a charge in this circle. He's outside of it, clearly. Now, I question whether it was really he was moving into the player who had already started his pass to the bucket.
But the point is, they can't
But the point is they made a call.
Yeah, but they can't challenge it anyways, because the only way they could challenge a charge is whether the guy's in the box or not. He was clearly outside of it.
Out of the box. And then now, to me, even after that, I say, you know what? I might have just said no call. That's just physical basketball. All right, but they got to call something now because LeBron got involved in an altercation. So we got to call. We're going to give it to LeBron. Then we're going to come back now. Then we look at the score and go, oh my God, Cleveland may win this game. You know, we don't want to get a situation where Cleveland's going to have an opportunity to go back to Cleveland and be up 3-1. Because if they go home with a winning streak, you know, hang on here. We may need to make some competition on this. We want Golden State winning 2 there because we're pretty sure Cleveland's going to win 2 at home. That's maybe their line of thinking. So we look at that call. To me, you made the call. I didn't think it was a great call. I didn't think it was a terrible call, but you made the call.
It wasn't bad
At
enough
no
to
point,
overturn
it. The call was not irregular. There was no clear and decisive reason to overturn that call. It's like, we may have missed it, but we missed it. We made the call. We live with it. All right? That's just the call. I'm sorry. You know.
And this is the biggest point. Real quick, Steve. When I played, the thing I remember is this. If the play didn't affect whether you scored or not, most of the time they let it go. I remember I was a high school football official in 1995 just for 1 year to make a little bit extra money right after I got married. And I remember taking a test, and the official that stood up to talk to us said, if there's a hold and it doesn't affect the play, don't call it. It just bogs down the game. And now everything is called. Everything is penalized that they can. And, I mean, if you've got – they've just over-officiated everything. I mean, my biggest point was I used to teach my offensive linemen in the 90s into the early 2000s. If we're running the ball all the way down the field for a touchdown, that once that running back's 10 yards past you, turn around and come back and knock somebody else out. Not stop.
Or just don't. Why do you touch anybody? Just
no.
Let him go.
You come back and you see if you can take a shot on somebody that's unsuspectingly running down the field. Now, yes, that is cheap, but it was legal, and we used to have fun doing it until 2000 when they told that they couldn't do it no more.
Yeah.
But it doesn't affect the game. You're supposed to protect yourself at all times. And my argument was this. If that guy running with the ball fumbles and they pick it up and running it back the other way, the play's still alive. So, but it's just like basketball. When you see these guys on the breakaway, I remember back in the day, like if you watch the 84 finals and you watch the Lakers and the Celtics and there's a steal and Magic Johnson's taking the ball up the court 3-on-1 and somebody reaches over and hits him, they didn't call it a foul. He'd throw the pass, they'd get the points. And last night at the end of the third quarter, they did that where they reviewed it, changed it to just one free throw. And then instead of having a chance for 2 points on the breakaway, they only got 1, and then they had to take the ball out the length of the court with 3 seconds left. I mean, why would you call a foul when either that or change the rules so it's a technical foul, it's 2 shots in the ball? But, I mean, if it doesn't affect the game, I mean, if a guy's shooting a 3 in one corner and in the other corner 2 guys are chicken fighting with each other, you don't call a foul on them and stop the flow of the game. Because the other thing is, if you look at the NFL, the NBA, I don't have a problem with instant replay because I think on some things you got to make sure the right call is made. See, because I'm sorry.
I disagree.
I'm sorry. In 1979, Mike Renfro catches a ball that would have made the game 17-17 against Pittsburgh. They don't call it a touchdown. They don't review it. And that Houston Oilers team, which was a great team, never goes to a Super Bowl. Now, I don't know if they would have beat Pittsburgh in the end, but you cannot take something in that important of a situation and take it away. In 1985, Don Dinkinger, worst call I've ever seen. I was cheering for the Royals. He calls a guy safe when he should have been out. Kansas City wins
Right.
Game 6. They go on and win Game 7. I think the only time that replay should be used is in the last 5 minutes of the game. And I think you should get to use it twice in those last 5 minutes, and it should be only for turnovers and touchdowns. And,
okay, now
and in basketball,
I so
who the
disagree
ball's
with you.
out
I
on,
disagree with you.
well, then you're wrong.
No. Okay, in some way I agree with you, some way I don't. To me, call this a replay whenever you want, but only for black and white decisions.
Yeah, that's what
no
I just
judgment call can be reviewed. So you can't have the situation in the game where I think Gronkowski or somebody, Patriots, where they called a touchdown at the end of a regular season game, and then it came back for review, and they said that his knee was down, but the ball had not crossed. I mean, you're looking at this thing 10 ways to Sunday, and you can find an angle to show anything you want to, but it's a judgment call. Live with it. What you can review is, was his foot on the line for a three-pointer? Was his foot on the line for out of bounds? Did the ball come off the rim and then
that's the
or
same
the
thing you're
backboard?
looking at on a
touched it?
Gronkowski play. You're looking at whether the ball was past the line or not. What's the difference?
Okay, well that may be a bad example there, but anything that's a judgment call like that, or any judgment call like the charging thing, because they went back and reversed it. All they had to do, all they should have looked at was, no, he was outside of that line. We called a charge. He met the requirements based on what we saw at the moment of impact and called the charge. Over and done with, not reviewable. Forget it. We're not going to change the call other than if his foot was inside that imaginary
but see,
no
the
charge
problem with that
area.
call that most people don't bring up is the guy under the basket thought it was a charge or a block, and the guy up top of the key thought it was a charge. So
But they ultimately called it a charge. They called it a charge.
They called
then
it
they went
a
over
charge
the table
because
and
they
reversed
reviewed it. They should have
Done.
made them make a decision.
Yeah, they called the charge, and then they went back and reviewed it and reversed it.
Yeah, I think penalties like that on charges
They reverse
or
the
pass
judgment.
interference, I don't think should be reviewed. But I think whether a ball's in the end zone or not, and a turnover, or a ball tipped out, you're not sure who tipped it out, with 10 seconds left, Game 7 of the NBA Finals, you have to make sure you get that call right.
If the equipment's there to tell you that, who's the last player to touch the ball? That's a black and white call. You can review that. Review it. It clearly says
what about goaltending?
Goaltending is reviewable. It's black and white. If it touched the rim, if the ball's over the cylinder, that's
hits the
defining. Hits the backboard. It's goaltending. It's a black and white rule. But this stuff now, you're a football coach and you're a good one. I'm told,
that was great.
in me being a wimpy quarterback, that basically in the NFL or in college at any level, you can call holding on every single play if you wanted to.
Yeah.
You could find somebody holding on every single play. Right?
Yeah.
Am I right or wrong?
Probably, yes.
Defense on both sides of the ball, on defense and offense. You can always find somebody. So when do they choose when to throw a holding flag?
Well, I think
when do they
answer
choose?
that question. I mean, I think this. I hate to say this, but if you look at the NFL, you don't see the Pittsburgh Steelers or the Green Bay Packers or teams like that get screwed over too much by officials. And my story goes back to this. 1988, all right, Super Bowl 23, Bengals were playing the Niners. All right, I got a friend who always sees a ticket holder. He was going to Super Bowl 23. After the game, he told me this story. After the game, he owned a video store in Aurora, Indiana, the place that kicked your ass in the Sweet 16.
Don't tell me it was Tim Johnson. I'm sure it's Tim Johnson.
No,
I'm sure Tim Johnson owns a damn video
Johnson
store.
was too busy, still celebrating kicking your ass 11 years before.
Yeah, him and Bobby Plump, good, both on selfish stories.
But
Jesus Christ.
But he told me the story of the Frito-Lay truck driver comes up, and he's dropping stuff off, and he asked him, "You going to the Super Bowl in Miami?" And Jim told him, "Yeah." He said, "Well, I don't even know why you're going." Jim said, "Why?" He said, "Because the game's already decided." He said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, the team that sells the most merchandise for winning the Super Bowl always wins the Super Bowl." And if you look at it, in almost every case, in every game played, it was the team that sold the most merchandise or the team was the best story. You look at the Colts. You're a Colts fan. The Colts lose to the Saints. Few questionable calls in that game. You had the hurricane right before that.
Right. No, I know that. I'm not buying
Bettis,
that song and dance.
I'm not buying it in that game because Peyton Manning just sucked in big games. But Jerome Bettis, Pittsburgh, Super Bowl 40 against Seattle, that game was fixed. All right? I'm not a big conspiracy theorist on this because I think officiating just sucks. That game was fixed.
Yeah.
Flat out, it's the worst officiated game I've ever seen. Has no bearing whether I like Seattle or Pittsburgh because I don't care two shits about either one of them. But that game was fixed. The only game that I can find where it wasn't like that would have been like Denver and Seattle, but you couldn't fix that for Peyton Manning because Seattle just came out and just bludgeoned them right away, and there was really nothing you could do to change that. But I think that when you look at the NFL, the NBA, I think, is just poorly officiated. I don't know if it's fixed
Very
or not.
poorly.
Yeah, I don't know if it's fixed or not. But the NFL,
I don't think
I
it's
have
fixed.
huge doubts about the NFL. And I have huge doubts.
I think it's rigged. It's rigged to keep things competitive. That's what I think.
See, I don't think so with the NFL. I think it's rigged for who wins the damn game. And I think it was better for that league for Philadelphia to win this year. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe it came back to that dude hit Brady. Brady fumbled, so they couldn't win. But when I look at the NFL, and I look at all the mounting NFL evidence from like the concussion incidents, the way they're not paying the players what they're supposed to play them, that beat them into lawsuit now, the Ray Rice incident where they're going to let him play until there's a video that busts their ass on it. There's been so many shady things that have gone on in the NFL. It's the same thing with having a vote on something that it has to be in the collective bargaining agreement where the players have to stand. I mean, the CBA determines that. Yeah, and I guarantee you that this will not make it through court. We can call our old buddy John Einreinhofer, our Grueling Truth legal team, will tell you that you can't have a CBA with a union and then just change the rules of the CBA in the middle of it without having the players have some kind of a say in it. And the NFL shady as hell. And the NBA is looking that way to me too. Now, I don't really see these problems in the MLB or the NHL. Now, I don't watch a lot of NHL hockey, but I watch enough of it that I haven't really seen anything playoff-wise that looked that shady. Plus, you look at the fact that the teams, Washington, I don't know that they're a big team that would be in there. It looks to me like they'd always want to have at least one Canadian team against a New York or an LA team. But when I look at it, the NFL is the one I have the biggest question marks about. And the more I see the NBA, because to me, when I used to watch the playoffs, like in the 90s, there was questions when Jordan beat the Pacers. There was questions here or there, maybe Jordan against the Knicks, maybe he gets some calls. But now it's more than just happening with one or two players. And when it just happens with one or two teams that have superstars on it, I can think maybe it's just the influence of that superstar being there. But now when I look at it, and it happens in almost every damn game, it makes you just wonder what the hell's going on.
Yeah. Well, your boy, speaking of Tom Brady, came out today. Did you hear what he said today on Twitter?
Are you sure that was from Tom Brady?
Well, he's being attributed to it, and a lot of people are responding to it on Twitter. I mean, including the NFL, or the NBA, is that Brady said it best. The finals are either rigged or the refs are taking money.
Yeah.
And he said, I've been investigated for a hell of a lot less alleged cheating.
A deflated ball.
Now, whether he did or not, but it's all, it was a Twitter hot seat today. And
well, he's right
whether he really said it.
He's right if he said it.
Well, yeah, but that's anyway. I'm the other thing we didn't even broach on, and I know we're spending a lot of time on this, is ranting now, but remember not long ago, fans were calling in on PGA Tour events and calling penalties on players on the golf course. And the PGA was sending referees out there to say, did you do this? And they would show them the replay. And it was never brought to their attention. Golf is a game where you call your own penalty on yourself. But a lot of the players don't really know the rules to that intricacy that you would think they would. But they had fans now calling in, citing USGA rules, and they would call some production office, and they would send it back out. And, the TV announcers got to make themselves look good and say, we just brought to our attention, maybe he marked his ball wrong here. It cost Lexi Thompson a major championship on the LPGA Tour.
Well, I'll tell you this, Steve.
I think they stopped it.
Hey,
here's my point.
My
point is this. I understand that there's some good to instant replay. But weighing the good and the bad, I would just get rid of it all and just go back, let the refs make the calls, and live with it. I know it's going to hurt people. It's going to cost people. But I'm getting so sick of it in sports, I'm not watching anymore. You know, I'm telling you what, if there's a good movie on, or I'll flip back and check the score and keep the score up, or I'll tape it. I watched the Pocono 500 yesterday in NASCAR in all about 15 minutes. I flipped through the first 140 laps, watched the last 20 laps, turned it off. You know, the hell with it. Same with the 2 IndyCar races this weekend. Taped them both, watched all told about 30 minutes of both of them. And I would assume they just got rid of this replay period. That, you know what, referees are part of the equipment, it's part of the game. They like footballs are going to go flat. They like, you know, courts are going to get slick, and just they're going to make mistakes and make bad calls. It's going to hurt teams, but it's going to keep the sport purer than what instant replay has done. Instant replay has polluted the sport.
Hold on. If you have dirty officials, though, and you have no check and balance there with replay, wouldn't that
they're
make
not
it
checking and
easier
balancing
for them?
anything. What are they? How many referees have been suspended because of?
There are calls that have been changed in a good way.
Yeah, I agree. I said that. I said I'll take the good with the bad.
So,
I'll throw out the good with the bad.
Wait a second. What I'm saying is this, though. If you don't have anything to call them on it during the game, and obviously these leagues do nothing to keep them in check after the game for anything they did wrong, doesn't this make it easier for them to cheat?
Well, you know what? I'll say this. Professional sports, baseball and football and even the NBA, have been around a hell of a lot longer than instant replay. And I've never heard more bitching about officiating and refereeing and blown calls and missed calls since 1980, whenever the hell it was, and instant replay came into vogue. Because it just sets up a whole other universe of armchair freaking officials that come into a game and think they know it. You got to have people from New York or some centrally located video monitor questioning what the referees are doing, or actually they're just drinking league Kool-Aid is all they're doing, because I've never heard one of the guys on the booth say, boy, that referee just made a bad call. Well, let me tell you about this little codicil in this rule that gives the referee the right of eminent domain in terms of campus unrest. And that's why he made a good call. No, the guy was outside the take a charge lane. It was a charge. Live with it. Tell him it was a bad call. He should not have changed the call. See, I'd rather just do away with this replay. I'll lose good.
Officials.
Well, no, you got to have officials. But I don't
know. How many basketball games did we play in the state of Indiana where we called our own fouls and everything went fine?
No, we all did. And
if somebody did a shitty job, you beat their ass. That's the way it should be.
Exactly. Well, we called our own fouls. We lived in the Dust Bowl. Go ahead, talk. I'm going to look something up.
What are you going to look up?
Number of games LeBron James has fouled out of.
Look up the number of games Michael Jordan fouled out of, too. And remember this, superstars usually don't play defense a whole game.
How many times has LeBron James fouled out in his career?
Alexa or Siri?
No, I'm on Pinterest, whatever that is.
Pinterest? That's what ladies go on for cooking tips, isn't it?
Yeah, and they're not giving me an answer either. LeBron James foul totals discussed in this article. All right, of course, you got to sign up and join Pinterest to read the article. That's what I'm not doing.
You're not already a member of Pinterest?
No, I'm not a member of Pinterest.
Because you can get some really good brownie recipes and shit in there, so you don't knock it until you try it.
Let me see here. Okay, go ahead. Keep talking. Let me see.
I will look at it.
Is this real? Is this really the only number of games that he's fouled out of? 8 times?
Okay, that sounds real. Check out.
Fouled out of his first in NBA in December of 2004, first time.
Probably
I don't think he's fouled out 10 times.
4 years of his career.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think he's fouled out of a game 10 times.
Well, he shouldn't.
There you go.
That's what people pay to see is LeBron James.
I know, but that tells me, I've played against Magic Johnson 5 times. I fouled out. I used every one of the 25 fouls I was given on him, and he still kicked my ass. But damn it, he was going to pay something every 5 times a game that I was guarding. So I never played a game against Magic where I didn't foul out. So
Did you
it's
ever
just
play a
crazy.
game where you didn't foul out?
I played a lot of games where I didn't play.
Just checking.
I sat on the bench.
Yeah. Well.
So I my whole point is this: I think officiating is rigged, not to pick winners and losers. I think it's rigged to keep games competitive or sports competitive, because the almighty TV dollar, the TV audience, has just overwhelmed the sports in all facets, including the NCAA, including AAU, including all professional sports, forms of it, everything. I don't know of a sport that's just pure anymore. Horse racing may be pure.
No, horse racing.
There's no judgments in horse racing. The first one to cross the damn line and the camera takes a picture of it, that's the horse that wins. Unless there was PED involved.
Well, you also got fixed horse races. At least there used to be a lot of them.
Sure, you have jockeys that pull back. I get that too. But it's not officiating that's doing that. That's a whole different can of worms. That's the Pete Rose syndrome.
I think this is the biggest problem. The biggest problem in the end is anytime, and professional sports, all of them are like this, anytime this much money is involved, there could be shady shit that goes on. And the thing is this.
There is shady shit that goes on, right.
The NBA and the NFL, if they don't fix the officiating, before long, if it's like WWE, let's face it, the majority of WWE fans are between the ages of 6 and 13. All right? And then you get to the point where you grow up and you stop watching it. But if you haven't, and you're like a teenager, your 20s or 30s, that's all right, because you can listen to Heel and Turn, which is our WWE show here on thegrizzlytruth.net. So, but when
you know what? Poetically, go ahead. I'll finish up. Go ahead.
It's just if they don't get this straight, it ends up just being sports entertainment, and the ratings will drop substantially.
It is sports entertainment. I mean, poetically, the point I was going to make poetically about the WWE is, it's fixed, and you enjoy the entertainment part of it.
I don't want to watch something that's fixed.
Well, if you're going to watch it, but it's not. It's entertainment. It is not raw, competitive sports.
Yeah, but I can't be
entertained
by something that's not real.
Well, that's a personal choice. That's a personal choice, and I get that. I totally get that. What defines entertainment to you? I can live with anybody's own choice of what's entertaining to them. But that the outcome is not decided by the effort put forth by the athletes. It's put forth by the promoters inside that need to have this guy to win so they can have a grudge match outside another stadium. The NBA, the NFL, Major League Baseball, auto racing, golf, all those sports are not designed for that. They're designed to see the highest level of talent play at the highest level of competition and live on the pins and needles of gut check plays, gut check moments, coaching decisions, and everything that none of us are good enough to do or to be at that level. And it's being taken away from us. And it's being taken away from us for the sense of competitiveness, not necessarily for the wins losses. I think the best team will win the NBA championship, and I think the best team is by far Golden State, and they're going to win it.
See, we're headed to a point where, 10 years from now, Kim and Khloe Kardashian will be the officials for the NBA Finals.
I don't, that's just entertainment. That's just mindless, stupid.
Yeah, that's
you look
what
at those,
mean.
You look at them and you just go,
headed.
That's like championship wrestling.
Yeah,
that's where we're all headed. Yeah, that's what TV is doing to it. The proliferation of ESPN 49, 50, 51, ESPN Plus.
Have you ever seen the movie Idiocracy?
No, I do not believe I have.
You need to look it up and watch Idiocracy.
Okay.
It'll show you what the world's going to be like in 50 years. And
well, I can imagine.
In 50 years, the world was, I'll just give you a little teaser. The president was President Camacho, who was a professional wrestling world champion that everybody voted for to be president. We're not that far away from that right now. We got Donald Trump, who was a reality TV star.
And the idiot's going to get reelected.
Yeah, so watch Idiocracy because it's an awesome movie.
Yeah.
It'll show you where we're headed. And everybody out there, that's your homework until we're back Thursday night. Or when's the next finals game? Is that Wednesday night?
I don't know. I don't know.
Well, we'll probably be back Thursday night. You can check.
We'll be back Thursday night for
sure.
But I'm disillusioned by the officiating and this whole stuff about rigging for competition. I think there's players that play their hearts. I think LeBron has been a monster this entire playoffs. And it's going to come down and be tainted. The effort that man put forth at his age, in the minutes he's played, the things he's accomplished and done, and the argument and debate he's created is going to all be tarnished and tainted by refereeing, the NBA wanting to get ratings, and for all the wrong reasons. He's going to get a bad reputation. By itself, LeBron James, by all accounts, is a good man. He donates a lot of money. He has a wife and kids. He's a very family-oriented person. You've never heard his name mentioned in a scandalous play. But yet we all don't like him. And it's because of the antics on the basketball court or because of the way he's protected as an athlete by referees and by the league. And it's too bad. It's really too bad. It's too bad for the sport and too bad for the fans that love the sport.
All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up. Remember, we'll be back Thursday night. You can check out, if you're listening to Survive in Advance now, hear about 10 o'clock Eastern Time, an interview with two-time Major League Baseball All-Star winner of the 1992 World Series with the Toronto Blue Jays, third baseman Kelly Gruber will be up. Also, Steve, you'll be interested in this, because I think tomorrow morning is when I'm going to put it out. We will have the Grueling Truths way too early preseason college basketball top 25.
And you didn't ask my input on that?
No,
it's bullshit then.
I asked everybody else, but
that's fine. Well, it's like a bunch of idiots that don't know what they're talking about.
That's just me, basically.
Well, ask everybody how many college basketball games they played in and what teams are doing right now to put themselves in a position to be ranked in the top 25.
Yeah.
Or you just go off the Romeo Langford theory.
Steve.
Let's just create a big campaign and market ourselves right to the number one position.
Hey, Steve.
What does it mean? You know what? There's only one number one team in the country. That's the one who walks away with the trophy on March 31st.
So if you want, Steve,
March 30th.
We won't even do another show for Indiana basketball until the last game's played.
No, because it's informative. I'm gonna have former players on, and they'll tell you. I'm not gonna get some other analyst or somebody who was a statistician on the high school basketball team who thinks he can talk on the radio tell you this is how it was done.
Well, so you're gonna rip on my top 25?
No, that's whatever. It's your opinion. And we all think of opinions, all right?
What?
Opinions are like buttholes. We all have them, and they all stink.
There was a basketball court at Aurora High School. You fly your ass up here. We'll play one-on-one. We'll do it pay-per-view on thegruelingtruth.net, and we'll see.
Tim would have a heart attack shortly, 2 seconds after I had one.
No, we're talking about me playing you.
No, that's not going to happen either.
I know, because that would be even.
I don't need it. But I just love to hear opinions of people who've never done anything but write opinions.
Yeah.
And that's the boat you're in on that one, Captain.
Not really.
Yeah, I'll give in to you on football because you're a man who knows football. You start talking college basketball, leave it to the guys who played the game. Okay.
I did play the game.
What you bring us on the show for?
I did play the game. Fans,
if anybody's still listening, gives a damn anymore. I will have an IU player on once a week, former player, to tell you about not just about Bob Knight. Not going to be all Bob Knight stories, but about the transitional teams, the movement of the program, about college basketball, and they'll give you their insight. And these will be people you'll want to listen to because they are students of the game. Not in that arena, you're not.
Okay.
So go on back to boxing.
All right.
Where you belong.
But all right. Like I said.
Oh, Mikey's got his feelings hurt.
Well,
I'm retired.
Hey, if it wasn't for my grades, I would have played more than 3 games at Indiana State. So I don't even want to hear that. 3 games counts.
You're a legend in your own mind, Mike.
I'm a legend. Well, so are you, Steve. So we're even there.
And with that, we'll call it a show.
All right, guys. Remember, you can hear all of our shows on iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, wherever you find sports podcasts, you'll find The Grueling Truth. So for the immortal Steve Risley.
I'm not immortal.
I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth where the legends speak.
Good night, everybody.